Well, your batteries are low. Uh-oh. All right, stop fast. Okay.
So, what can you tell us about this season? The main thing I want to ask you, I think it's awesome that you guys are pairing. Hello, the original the Vampire Diaries.
Thank God.
How did you make that decision? Why was it done?
Well, interestingly enough, we have no control over that decision whatsoever, and so we've been at the mercy of the schedulers every year. And I think the first year that they put us on, not on the same night as the Vampire Diaries, I was very surprised, but I understood and respected their logic, which is we believe that this show actually can hold its own without needing its mothership to tether onto. We believe that it is strong enough as a self-sustaining piece of material, and then we were able to be on Tuesdays and actually hold our own and do well. And that was a real mark of pride for us, you know, that we weren't just like riding the wave of the Vampire Diaries. But now that we're 3 years in, like I just want, like we're partnership, you know. I don't want to be, no offense to Jane the Virgin, you know, that's great, but like I want us to have that night where people can like make an appointment and tune in, and then so I'm very excited.
I think it's a good move.
I think so too. I think it's time.
Does that mean there will be more crossovers, or are there some more?
You know, it's possible. It's difficult. We don't have one planned right now. We argue about it every day. And when I mean argue, we argue. We pitch things, they get mocked. I pitch things, I get told to shut up. Other people pitch things, I say that's the worst idea I've ever heard. And so one day we'll maybe stumble into something like that and we'll do it, and if not, we'll just carry on about our business.
Are really both of the original parents dead? Can you tell us anything about that?
Sorry, you what?
The original parents are both really dead?
Yes, they're dead. They're dead. They're dead. It's funny because this whole season, you know, they've died several times over the course of the 1,000-year history of this family. And this season really for us was about cementing the finality of being an orphan, especially when you are an orphan raised at the hands of manipulation, lies, abuse, and that kind of thing. And so it's fun to think of now our children, the Michelsons, moving on and trying to fix all the things that their parents broke within them. And I'm excited to explore that.
I was going to ask you, sorry. I've got like notes. I had so many people tweet me. I said, be a question, do you have questions? I didn't think I would get any.
No, they do. They want to know.
Legions and legions. So I did write some of the best ones down. So hold on one second. Okay. Oh yeah. Well, okay. So now that the shows are booked, I mean, you sort of said that you haven't planned any crossover. So will there be sort of a central storyline that might connect the two?
Not right now. You know, we wrote both stories separately for both shows. There's nothing right now that links them together, which is why it's been so difficult to come up with something that even if we wanted to do a crossover, it's difficult to find what that story is. But you know, now that we sort of can appreciate the hunger for it, and if we can decide whether we want to do it or not, as we move forward, we are always looking for those kind of opportunities. And like I said, it might never happen because it's got to be good.
Right.
With the history and mythology that surrounds New Orleans, are you going to try and pull in anything else that maybe you haven't pulled in yet? Voodoo, more ghosts, anything that kind of really pulls in that New Orleans feel? Are you going to try and pull some more of that to make it unique? One
thing I really have been hammering the writers with this year is I actually sat and I asked my two best friends who loved the show at the end of the season, and I said, I know you guys love the show and I'm so grateful, but I'm wondering, you know, this year, is there anything that you didn't like or that you wish we would do differently? And both of them independently of each other said, we love that it used to be so much more about the New Orleans folklore and New Orleans as a city and a culture itself, and you know, with all the bayou stuff and everything, gotten away from the French Quarter and the idea of who's in charge and what, you know, ghosts are buried behind these walls. And so this year I've been saying to the writers, like, try to find a way to weave in that folklore and to really make New Orleans a signature part of the show, like it was when we started. So that's, you know, knock on wood.
Will there be a time jump?
It'll be a slight time jump, nothing obnoxious, just enough time, you know, passage of a month or two, to have let the dust settle and see how people are moving on.
Do you ever find yourself kind of changing the way the show is going based on fan like input or the way that fans feel about something? Do you find yourself kind of changing things a little?
You do and you don't. You know, I mean, the thing about social media these days is that in a way you have an instant market research component where you have instant feedback and you can see in a moment whether somebody's embracing something or rejecting it. And for me, it's like if someone rejects it out of hand, it makes me sort of even more feeling bolder to try to win them over. You know, as opposed to saying, oh, well, the fans don't like that, so we can't do it. You know, I think if I believe in this and if I want to do it, my job is to like silence that group that doesn't think it's a good idea. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it takes you more. But I think that, you know, you take everything you hear, you filter it through your own instinct, and you say, like, what story am I trying to tell here? What do I like? And more often than not, you're in sync with your own audience. You know, it's a symbiotic relationship. And so more often than not, if you love something, they love it too. Every now and then, you know, for whatever reason, somebody, you know, has a bone to pick with a certain storyline. And then you just decide how much you like it. I think, you know, we love the character of Cammie in our show very much. We love Leah. We think she's an extraordinary actress. And a lot of the class Caroline fans from the Vampire Diaries have really sort of poked at her and poked at that character. It just gives us more ammunition. We're like, you know what, this is a smart, very fierce, very cool woman, and she deserves her day in the sun, and we're not going to let, you know, angry fans push her out of our picture. You know? So, can you talk about new characters? Yeah, absolutely. So we know for sure of a handful of new characters, none of which are cast yet, but we have a detective. There's going to be a murder in our opening episode in the French Quarter, and we are going to actually meet the police for the first time in a while.
I always wondered, like, where the hell is the police when all this killing stuff is going on?
And the police are not in the know, so it's going to be an interesting. How do they dissect the forensics of this murder case? It's clearly vampires. And then we're going to meet our 3 new vampires who are about 990 years old. Basically, the first vampire sired by each of our original siblings. So the 3 remaining sire lines. And they are going to come to town and move themselves into New Orleans with a bit of a bone to pick with their parents, who of course, our original.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.